Most CEOs will not look at that, look at the rear view mirror, if I may. And for you, I think looking at, your strides, from St. Mary's to Pittsburgh, now back to the region, what are some of the lessons that, you'd actually share in leadership that have propelled you this far?
Okay. Thank you, Laban. And it is also almost therapeutic, looking back, at that journey and talking about it, because you almost relive it. But when I think back about the lessons, it is very clear that one has to have certain anchors that define who you are. And I think my anchor has always been one of being very disciplined towards having a goal and going for it. This has been something that came from my parents, because they were not particularly people of means. They were an average family and made choices that came to define us, and also sacrifices. And those sacrifices are always with me. So I think the first lesson I would like to particularly tell young people is, don't be afraid to fail. You will find failure, you will find setbacks in your journey, but have the discipline to keep going, to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going. Because ultimately your ship does come in, right? Despite the challenges. And then 2, take some risk in life. Take some risk, and calculated risk. The younger you are, I think the better time to take risk, because you have time to change course, to pivot, to try new things. When you start to feel the warm embrace of comfort zone, that's dangerous.
Why I'm laughing is because you mentioned about your London and experience, and then trying to move back home. And that's where you met your wife. I think that was a risk, to be honest, because
it was a huge risk.
You've been in diaspora, 25 years? 25 and now you're deciding, okay, well, I want to go back home. I want to do an emerging market, for instance.
So if I follow my journey from New York to London to Johannesburg, back to London, to Johannesburg to Zambia.
Oh, you went to Zambia.
Tanzania, Zambia. Tanzania, Joburg, Zambia, then Kenya.
The family?
No.
Moving? Okay, now you.
I only got a family when I was in Joburg for 13 years. Both my kids got, on there. We had gotten married in 2006. My wife moved to Joburg to follow me. And we started pretty much our family there. And for my sins, I also hold as an African passport.
Fantastic.
But what does it say? It says that I have deliberately moved around. And each move comes with a risk. It's new territory, new culture, new learnings. And you could also struggle in each move. Moving away from what I would call my traditional background, which is I came from investment banking into corporate finance, essentially doing structured deals. And this is where, again, that risk-taking element comes in. Somebody challenged me, why don't you now go and run a business? Go and actually run a franchise that takes care of people, takes care of the whole gamut. And instead of being just a transactor, specialist. And that happened when I was in Johannesburg. And I then took up the challenge and applied to be the CEO in Zambia, an off-beaten track. I've come from London, New York, etc. Then I went to join the city team in Zambia and run the business there for 2 years, completely off the track.
Fantastic.
And from Zambia, I had a family issue that I needed to rush back home to in Kenya, and left city, which was my home, right? And joined CBA at the time, became NCBA as group executive director, and then came home with them. So came from a global bank into a local bank. Now that transition is also, it can, you can look at it different ways, but 2 different types of institutions. Still a very credible institution, no doubt, but different. So what I want to again underscore that second point is, do take risk in your career. Take calculated risk. Don't be afraid. And don't get comfortable, because when comfort zone sets in, then that is really an enemy. So when you take risk and calculated risk, it actually propels you to the next thing.
Great.
And
Great.
I shifted from being a specialist
Yeah.
to a general manager. So by the time I rejoined City in April 2019, the story of the prodigal son,
Returns.
I was ready to come back and take on this role.
Sure.
So I had the
Fantastic.
privilege of doing that.